Shalom everyone. Today we are entering Midrash Rabbah Bereishis Chapter 17. And the whole chapter turns around one sentence from Genesis. It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper corresponding to him. That sentence sounds simple, but the Midrash opens it up like a hidden chamber. It is not only talking about marriage. It is talking about what makes a human being complete. It is talking about companionship, correction, humility, responsibility, wisdom, and the spiritual structure of man and woman. And the important thing is this: the Midrash is not reading the verse like a flat social rule. It is reading it as a map of the soul. Adam is the human being who can think, name, choose, build, and serve. But even with all that, something is still missing. The human being needs a mirror. He needs another presence who can reveal what he cannot see in himself. That is why the helper is also corresponding to him, facing him, standing before him, teaching him through presence, tension, loyalty, and truth. The Midrash begins by connecting this verse to the 10 utterances of creation. In Pirkei Avos, we learn that the world was created through 10 divine utterances. But when the Midrash counts the obvious verses in Genesis, one utterance seems to be missing. One view says the missing utterance is the creation of the wind, the spirit, the moving breath of life. Another view says the verse, "It is not good that man should be alone," itself is counted as one of the creative utterances. That is already powerful. The creation of woman is not treated as a small side detail. It is not an afterthought. It is part of the architecture of creation itself. The world is not complete when man stands alone. The human image is not fully expressed in isolation. Something in the divine plan requires relationship. Then the Midrash says something strong. An unmarried man lives without goodness, without help, without joy, without blessing, without atonement, without peace, and even without a certain fullness of life. Some sages say he is not called a complete person because Scripture says that God created them male and female and called their name men. In other words, the full human pattern is not just an isolated individual, but a joint image, a relational image. Now, we have to hear this deeply. The Midrash is not merely saying everyone must follow one external life path. It is revealing a spiritual principle. Alone, the ego can remain untrained. Alone, a person can keep living inside his own private desires, his own habits, his own emotional weather. But relationship brings the soul into a classroom. It teaches patience. It teaches giving. It teaches compromise. It teaches a person to see someone else as real. This is why the insight in the chapter calls family life a kind of home, schooling for the soul. A person naturally begins as a taker. A child is centered on himself, but inside a home, through spouse, children, relatives, and responsibility, the heart becomes widened. The soul learns how to become a giver. So when the Torah says it is not good for man to be alone, it is not only saying loneliness is painful. It is saying isolation can prevent the image of God from expanding into kindness. Then the Midrash studies the phrase, a helper corresponding to him. The Hebrew can carry two directions. If he merits it, she is a helper. If he does not merit it, she is opposite him. But the deeper meaning is not that a wife becomes an enemy. It means that help sometimes comes as opposition. Help is not always soft agreement. Sometimes help is resistance. Sometimes help is the person who sees your weakness and refuses to worship it. The Midrash illustrates this with the story of Rabbi Yose HaGelili. He had a difficult wife, and his students saw how she embarrassed him. They told him to divorce her, but he said he did not have enough money to pay the ketubah. Eventually, Rabbi Eliezer arranged the money. The divorce happened, and she married another man who was blind and poor. Later, Rabbi Yose saw her leading this man through the streets, asking for charity. Even after all she had done to him, he had compassion and supported them. That is a very deep picture. Rabbi Yose did not become bitter. He did not turn pain into cruelty. He carried dignity, even after a failed marriage. He still acted with mercy. The Midrash is not romanticizing conflict. It is showing how righteousness is revealed when a person refuses to let pain shrink his soul. Then the Midrash brings another story. A pious man and a pious woman were married but had no children. They separated and each remarried someone wicked. The pious man married a wicked woman and became wicked. The pious woman married a wicked man and made him righteous. The Midrash concludes, everything is from the woman. This does not mean a man has no responsibility. It means the home has a hidden center of influence. The atmosphere of the house, the emotional tone, the direction of the heart, the quiet pressure toward holiness or chaos often flows through the woman. The Midrash sees the wife not merely as someone beside the man, but as someone with the power to shape the entire spiritual climate of the home. From there, the Midrash moves to Adam, naming the animals. God brings the animals before Adam, and Adam assigns names. The angels could not do this. Adam could. Why? Because in the Hebrew worldview, a true name is not random. A name reveals essence. Adam saw into the inner nature of each creature and named it according to what it was. Then God asked Adam, "And you, what is your name?" Adam answered, "Adam," because he was taken from the Adamah, the ground. Then God asked, "And what is my name?" Adam answered, "Hashem," because God is master over all creation. So the Midrash shows us that man's greatness is not physical power. It is discernment. Adam can recognize essence. He can see meaning beneath form. This is why God passes the animals before him in pairs, male and female. Adam sees that every creature has a counterpart, and he recognizes his own lack. Only then does he ask for what he is missing. That is a major teaching. Sometimes God allows a person to notice the pattern around him before revealing the missing piece within him. Adam had to see companionship everywhere else before he could fully understand his own aloneness. Then the verse says that God cast a deep sleep upon Adam. The Midrash notices the wording and connects deep sleep with downfall. Sleep itself is not evil, but excessive sleep can become a spiritual collapse. A person who sleeps through life avoids Torah, avoids work, avoids responsibility, avoids his mission. The sages describe different kinds of deep sleep: ordinary sleep, prophetic sleep, the strange stillness of stupor, and the sleep of foolishness. Then the Midrash adds beautiful comparisons. Sleep is a small taste of death. Dreams are a small taste of prophecy. Shabbat is a small taste of the world to come. The light of the sun is a small reflection of heavenly light, and Torah is a small reflection of supernal wisdom. That means this chapter is also teaching proportion. Everything below has an echo above it. Earthly sleep hints to death. Dreams hint to prophecy. Shabbat hints to the future world. Sunlight hints to the higher light. Torah hints to wisdom that existed above before it entered human language. Then God takes one of Adam's sides and builds woman. The Midrash discusses whether this means a rib or one side of a double human form. Either way, Eve is not created as a separate species. She comes from Adam's own being. She is near him, connected to him, corresponding to him, able to stand with him, and also face him. The Midrash then notices an unusual letter, the letter Samech, appearing in this section. Some sages connect this to the Satan because with the creation of Eve also came the arena of temptation. But the deeper insight is very subtle. Woman is not the Satan, exactly the opposite. Woman is created as man's completion. But precisely because she is connected to his highest potential, the evil inclination attacks that relationship intensely. Where there is great spiritual possibility, there is also great resistance. When Israel stood at Sinai, the Satan attacked them through the golden calf. When Adam received Eve, the Satan attacked the first marriage through the tree. The target is always the place where holiness can become embodied. Then the Midrash speaks about God sealing the flesh beneath Adam. It uses physical language, but the meaning is still spiritual. The human body is designed with dignity. Even the parts of the body that seem low or embarrassing are formed with wisdom, protection, and modesty. Man is not an animal. The body itself carries signs of divine craftsmanship. The Midrash also says that God established burial or shrouds for man. Unlike animals left exposed, the human being receives honor even after death. This teaches that human dignity does not end when breath leaves the body. The body that housed the soul is still treated with respect. Then a noblewoman asked Rabbi Yose a sharp question. Why did God create Eve through what looks like theft, taking from Adam while he slept? Rabbi Yose answers with a parable. If someone secretly took a piece of silver from you and returned gold in its place, would you call that theft? In other words, Adam did not lose. He received something greater. She then asked why God had to make Eve while Adam was asleep. Rabbi Yose answers that if Adam had seen the raw process of formation, he might have been repelled. So God presented the completed person, not the unfinished process. This is a very human teaching. We often cannot appreciate beauty if we obsess over the messy stages by which it is formed. The Midrash continues with many questions about man and woman. Why does a man seek a woman? Because he seeks what was taken from him. Why is man's voice different from woman's? Because their creation material differs. Earth and bone. Why does a woman cover her head? The Midrash links it to Eve's role in the first sin. Why do women walk behind the bier in a funeral procession? Because death entered the world through Eve's influence in the story of Eden. These teachings are ancient and symbolic. The point is not to flatten men and women into stereotypes. The point is to read the body, the home, and human behavior as signs. The Midrash sees spiritual memory embedded in ordinary life. Finally, the Midrash explains 3 mitzvot especially entrusted to women: Niddah, challah, and lighting the Shabbat candles. Niddah repairs the spilling of Adam's blood because Eve brought mortality into human history. Challah repairs the damage to Adam, who is described as the challah of the world, the finest portion of creation. Shabbat candles repair the extinguishing of Adam's soul, because the soul of man is called the candle of God. And the insight connects this to Sarah. After Sarah died, the blessings of her tent disappeared. When Rebekah entered the tent, they returned. The lamp burned from one Shabbat eve to the next. The dough was blessed. The cloud of the divine presence rested over the tent. So Sarah becomes the rectification of Eve. Where Eve is associated with loss, Sarah is associated with restoration. Where Eve's act brings spiritual dimming, Sarah's tent brings light. blessing, and presence. And through Niddah, challah, and Shabbat candles, Jewish women carry that power of repair through the generations. So, the chapter begins with loneliness, but it ends with restoration. It begins with not good and moves toward the creation of a helper. It shows that the human being is not meant to become holy by escaping relationship, but by being refined through it. The wife can help by supporting, and she can help by opposing. The home can train the heart. A name can reveal essence. Sleep can hint to higher worlds. The body can carry dignity, and the small lamp lit before Shabbat can become an act of cosmic repair. That is the depth of Midrash Rabbah Chapter 17. It is not only about the creation of woman. It is about the completion of man, the power of the home, and the mystery that sometimes the thing placed opposite us is exactly the thing sent to help us become whole. Shalom.